when it sounds like recruiting limitations coming from the Friday announcements, it sounds like they're going to be manageable, a speed bump, if you will. Curious to know which ones will be the most challenging for this coaching staff. Brent and AP, anybody? 36 docked official visits or no official visits for 10 home games, 4 of those being SEC games, 28 scholarships, or the 28-week ban on recruiting communications. What's most challenging?
For me, I think it's either the 3 SEC games that you have to not have recruits at, or it is not being able to work the phones. I think that's, sometimes you got to be really strategic when you don't work the phones, and it's got to be a week when it doesn't matter, right? Like you can't have that week when you need to be on the phone when kids are closing out the recruitments, and I'm sure Tennessee will handle it that way. I don't worry about the official visitors. I mean, they don't get through their official visit allotment, most of the time anyway.
Yeah, I don't think the official visitors are a factor. I think the not having recruits at games is probably not the hardest necessarily to work through, but granted, it's the one that's always going to be used against Tennessee in recruiting. Boy, wouldn't you like to go see that game this week? Yeah, you can at Tennessee. I mean, they're on probation and that type of thing. So I think that's the one that they'll have to deal with specifically with recruits more than the phone call stuff.
You got 5 years, and you got to do 3 SEC games, and it'll be Vanderbilt in 23 at home, Vanderbilt in 25 at home, and Vanderbilt in 27 at home. And then it'd be a bunch of slappy games. Otherwise, it just don't matter. I mean, they played the Thursday games, and they had no recruits at those on purpose, and no one knew, no one said anything.
Well, I'm just saying other schools trying to use.
I know. I don't
think it's impossible to manage, but I think that's the one reminder that Tennessee's had an NCAA issue, right? I think that's the one reminder that recruits are going to hear from other schools. I mean, it's the same group of recruits who have heard, hey, they're going to get 3 years postseason ban. They're getting a death penalty. You'll never play for a championship while you're there because you won't be allowed to. I mean, that stuff's going to be used against them is my point.
When I read the no official visitors, 10 games, and how many SEC? Did you say 3 or 4? 3. I thought they should have clarified you can't count Vanderbilt in November as part of these SEC games because it's Vanderbilt and it's November. I mean,
and it's Thanksgiving.
It's like a non-conference game if things are going the way things should go.
Well, and remember this now. Remember this. We don't know what the schedule is going to look like, so we don't know who the Thanksgiving Day game is going to be after this year. I mean, that could be a big game. It's likely not, I don't think, but that's not a given that that's always going to be Alabama when the SEC kicks out this new schedule because we don't know what dates they're going to. I mean, they could finally use this now to put some of the more important games later in the year. It's not deciding the divisional race, but could be a bigger factor in the conference race. So we'll see who that Thanksgiving game is. But if it is Vanderbilt or even a team that doesn't draw a lot of interest, then yes, they will use that Thanksgiving weekend as their 3 to get through the SEC part.